Welcome to Advice from the Deal Room. I'm Ben Record.
Matt Russell.
And today, Matt, we're going to talk about not a real estate deal, an operating business, hotels.
It is still real estate, Ben. Come on.
It's a little bit different, though. It's not like your normal multifamily.
It is not. You're correct.
So we've financed lots of hotels, and I feel like it's something actually we're very good at. We used to kind of call them the undesirables or the property types a lot of lenders were hesitant about.
A lot of lenders are still hesitant because it is, as you noted, it's not just real estate. It's got business associated with it. It's got the operations of the business. It's got very economically driven on tourism, on businesses. Seasonality. There's so many other factors that go into play into that. So, we have financed many hotels, and one that came to mind that we were talking about is bring up a unique one that we've done.
Yeah.
So we did a hotel in Washington that the client purchased it under a rep. So he was not owner on title.
Okay. Interesting.
Not an owner on the title. He took over 100% management, all gains and losses when associated with him, but he was still paying the mortgages for the seller.
Okay.
So it was nothing was in his name yet. He paid $8.6 million for this hotel. He was realizing that he wanted to refinance it, get it out and put it into his name so he can have more control, even though he had control the way it was written.
Should make it a little bit more legit.
Right. And then finally truly pay off the seller or the remaining balance that he owed the seller. So we're looking at this going, wow, it's not a purchase transaction. It's not a refinance transaction. This is a unique transaction.
Yeah.
Because quote unquote, he's already purchased it, but quote unquote, he doesn't own it.
He's not on title.
Refinance it. So we looked at multiple options and came up to a life insurance company.
Okay.
So he paid $8.6 million for this hotel. And so since he's not on title, most of the time you're going to associate it with $8.6 million. It's going to be the transaction, what they're going to base the loan to purchase price off of, right? Loan to cost, all those factors.
Yeah.
So we're like, we were working with the insurance company. They said, okay, you've been managing, you've been owning it. They took it as him owning it, even though he was not on title, and made it a quasi-purchase, quasi-refinance.
Interesting.
And like, okay. And so he ended up getting an $8 million loan on a purchase price of a hotel of $8.6 million.
How many years after was he managing it during that time?
I think it was 2 years.
Okay.
Yes, it's 2 years. He got the numbers up. It was underperforming before. He got the numbers to perform very well, and the appraisal came in around $18 million.
Wow.
So sub 50% LTV when
Yeah.
it comes to that. So great for life insurance. Great product we got him into. But the uniqueness was just how we got him to look at it. He owned it but didn't own it, and basically he paid $600,000 out of pocket for it. End of the day, $18 million hotel.
Wow. What a deal.
What a great deal. You flipped in $600,000 to $10 million worth of equity.
Yeah. In 2 years.
It's not a bad place to be. It was just how we had to circumvent the purchase versus refinance and working with a lender who could go, okay. But you've been performing for a couple of years. Here's the numbers prior. Yes, there are some COVID numbers in there, but we went prior COVID numbers to look at that. So when you get to the hotel financing, and I know you're probably going to, one of these questions you have for me, there's much, much more than, give me a rent roll. There is no rent roll.
Yeah.
People aren't living there. People are staying 1 night, 2 nights, whatever it may be.
So all about your average nightly cost.
So inside of hotel financing, yes, you understand the NOI of the hotel. You're understanding the value of the hotel. But you also want to understand the metrics of the hotel, how it's performing against this comparison set. If this is a luxury hotel versus a mid-stay hotel versus an economy stay or long-term stay hotel. Mm-hmm. Different classes of properties when you go to Star Reports. Star Reports is the industry reports for hotel. What's the average daily rate? What's the RevPAR? what are these different, what's the occupancy of your hotel month by month over time. So you subscribe to star reports and you get that data back. And so that's one major factor they look at is how are you comparing to your comparison hotels? If you're a Marriott, how are you comparing to other like Marriott hotels out there in your stated area?
Similar echelon of brands.
Yes. Are your is your occupancy 15% lower than everybody else's? Are you performing at a high metric? Are you in the middle range? Where are you at? We're also looking at not just the star reports, but we're getting all those other reports from your management, which
You can keep going.
which feeds into the star reports, right?
Right.
So you're understanding a lot of that. And then comes into the PIPs. Hotels got a performance improvement plan. Like the brand that you sign up with, if it's Marriott, Holiday Inn, Best Western, whatever it may be, La Quinta, just thinking through some brands out there, every so often they require you to upgrade things.
Right.
And that is upgrading the branding, might be upgrading the furniture, the beds, whatever may be inside the hotel.
Carpet or the
the carpet,
the wall
down
coverings,
to
whatever.
every little detail in it. So they want to understand where you're at in the performance improvement plan. Do you have one? Have you just completed one? Is corporate satisfied with? Is the brand that you're with satisfied with where you're at in the performance improvement plan?
Exactly.
A property improvement plan, whatever you want to call it, right? So where are you at with that? Are you satisfied with that? So they want to understand, what do you have any big outlays that are coming up for capital? Are you going to have to throw out all the mattresses and get brand new mattresses? Are you going to throw out the carpet and get brand new carpet through the hotel? What's your upgrades that you're going to have to do over the next few years?
Right.
So if this is going to be $1 million expenditure, do you have that to be able to do that?
Yeah. Do you have that set aside?
Is the performance of the hotel lagging because you haven't done those things yet? Is corporate happy with what you're doing? And then understanding the agreement that you have with the brand.
Yeah, because generally they give you some money every so often to refresh
And at this one, we also rebranded at the same time.
Smart
to
move.
get him per room money, per key money. So that helped his rebranding, but also put some capital back in his pocket too, because typically when you get that money, not all of it is going to go into the requirements of the brand.
Right.
Brand, flag, or whatever you guys want to call it. So a lot of moving parts when you get to hotels. Understand the operations. Do you have the experience? Who's managing this hotel? What's the general manager's experience? Do you have a management firm that is managing this hotel? Are you managing the hotel? Do you manage other hotels? How the performance of some of your other hotels might be?
Right.
What is your expertise and experience in this business, as you mentioned earlier on? Because it's more than just a piece of real estate. Yes, it's a big piece of real estate.
It's a portion of it, but
but it drives off of how well you're operating that business.
right.
You can also do, so there is all the loan types for you. You can do CMBS, you can do life insurance, you can do conventional, SBA, USDA. You can do those loan products for it, but they really want to look at the experience of operating the hotel. How does it perform compared to like hotels?
And how does it really perform outside of the seasonal periods too? Because I know that's a big, if it's only ever a seasonal hotel, well, then you got to be able to weather those long winter months.
What's your strategy? Are you trying to undercut people a little bit on price and then drive up occupancy, which maybe helps your NOI? What is your pricing strategy too?
And that was one thing on my first hotel deal that I think is good for people to understand. What's like the average occupancy you see for most hotels?
It depends on the market.
Right.
It depends on where you're located.
But it's generally like sub 70%, right? Most of the time.
78, and a lot of and it depends.
Obviously really big ones.
Well,
fancy
you're
ones
also talking about concentration hotels. So you have a lot of competition.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a lot of competition and you might be in a very secluded market, your occupancy could be a lot higher.
Oh yeah.
What's the driving force too? And we've looked at other ones. What's the driving force for the occupancy for that hotel? Is there an industry that is now going to start lagging? Business travel, because business travel has changed over the years, ever since COVID.
Oh yeah.
How's that impacting? Is there tourism? Right now the economy is going through issues. right now with what the World Cup just happened, they're going to have to pull those outliers of the World Cup out of some of these hotels.
Oh, yeah.
When they start looking at numbers, say that was a one-time event, right?
Yeah, we got to make a lot of money
For
now.
these cities that had all the World Cups, and you're like, we're going to pull those numbers out because that's not going to repeat itself. We're not going to have a World Cup every summer in these cities that you're going to can guarantee this occupancy, can guarantee these average daily rates. That's not going to happen.
No.
So you have to there's a lot more decision making in the underwriting than you would on a typical triple net lease multifamily property.
Exactly. Tell us more about how this client's handled up since then. I mean, it's a couple years ago you did this loan, right?
Yeah, I think we're 3 years into it.
So he's probably happy as can be.
Happy because he's got a good fixed rate on the hotel. The hotel is not as performing as well because it's near the Canadian border, and with the tariffs and everything else that's happened over the last year,
There's a little less.
Has had an impact on the performance of the hotel. But he had a high debt service coverage ratio before, so he had wiggle room to be able to come down on that and have some lower occupancy and whatnot.
Weather those storms.
Weather the storms, but that, the storms in the hotel industry, when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's a bad storm, right?
It is. One of the other kind of things we talked about, you hinted at a little bit, was the varying different types of hotel financing you can get. Let's give some ideas of the ranges of like loan to values or loan to cost.
Conventional financing is going to be 65. There will be some that go to 70% on hotels. Then you have SBA. You can do a 7A. Obviously, it's $5 million or less.
Mm-hmm.
You can do an SBA 504, which is $5 million or less on the SBA side, but you still have the bank portion, so you can fund $20-25 million deals with a 504 if the bank is comfortable being at a slightly higher than 50% LTV, depending on the loan size, the project size. And then you have USDA, which can do larger projects. So you have that capacity with the USDA, but it's got to be in a rural location.
Right.
Then you have CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities. Those are typically limited at 65%. Let's go back to the USDA and SBA. Those are at around 80% LTV. So you have a lot of people like to go towards the SBA, or USDA is becoming more popular recently of going towards those products because you can get higher LTVs.
So it's good for either acquisitions or building and things like that.
Yes, correct.
And then generally when you're taking them onto the 65% loan to values, those are refinances a lot of the time.
Yeah. Or just people, I guess, have a lot of money to throw into the hotel.
True. Or they're maybe 1031ing into it or something, or they've capped out their SBA limits, things like that.
Yeah.
Any final things we should let people know about hotels?
Hotels, it's as you mentioned, it's real estate, but it's an operating business. So there is a lot more moving parts that you need to consider, different LTVs that you need to consider are going to be lower because it is a special purpose property. So you have to take all those things into consideration when you're looking at it, and make sure if you're buying a hotel, get a lot of the management reports from them, get their star reports, understand the metrics around the hotel. The numbers say one thing, but the metrics of how it's performing against other hotels says even more to the story than just the operations of that hotel. Understand if there's any one-time events that happened, anything like I was mentioning, the World Cup.
It's a great, really good example.
Beat that one up again, but understand if there's anything else that's come into play here that you need to take into consideration as pull as one-time anomalies.
Even those times where you have like a big construction job going on and you have construction crews from all over the nation in your area, like that's a one-off thing. That's not
building big data. Right now with the data centers popping up everywhere, is that hotel being propped up by data centers that will go away once the data center's built, whatever it may be, a large government job, whatever it may be. Understand what's been the driving force behind this.
And that's why I think on multifamily, we would normally see higher loan to values more consistently, 80 to 75% a lot of the time. And I think that difference, that obviously there's some that can go for SBA for hotels up to 90, but most of the time you're in that lower loan to value because they want to have that extra protection for the seasonality and the ups and downs.
It's a bigger risk. So, people always ask, well, can't we get these LTVs in certain property types? And you got to realize every property type has a different risk associated with it. Mm-hmm. And historically shown multifamily is, it's residential in a sense. It's housing people. It's got one of the lower risks.
Yeah.
So you can go a higher LTV. Anything that is different than that, special purpose properties, as we're getting the hotels, gas stations, those things that can't be converted into something else, right? You're not going to, minus hotels, we'll take that.
But even the work that goes into converting hotels is quite a bit of work to ever change it.
There is a lot of hotels conversions happening over to multifamily because of the need for multifamily, and some of these rundown or older, exhausted hotels can be converted over to multifamily, but it's still as a big expense to do that. And sometimes you're just building out studios, and what's the demand for studios? That's a whole different topic, and the model works great. There's a lot of people performing really good in that industry, in that conversion. But there's a lot more factors to consider when you're looking at special purpose properties as well. This is a gas station. It's always going to be a gas station. This is a hotel. Minus a multifamily conversion, it's always going to be a hotel.
Right.
How's it performing? What's the market demand in that specific market? Not just nationally. We're talking about very local to that specific market. Like we're in Yakima. How's Yakima performing? What's the driving force for people to use hotels here? Right? Understanding those metrics is where the underwriting comes into play in a hotel.
Hotels are a unique one. They are a little bit undesirable for lenders at times, and they're not one that I would advise the average investor to go swing on. I mean, you need to enjoy the hotel market. You need to
understand the hospitality market, understand what involves in it, and the seasonality and the cyclical nature of it based on the economy. That it is not typically it's not a need, it's typically a want. Compared to, let's go back to the other undesirable we continue to mention is gas stations. Last time I checked, it's still a need for people to fuel up, and people unfortunately buy some food and snacks inside the convenience store. So that's still more of a want than a need.
Yeah, and so when times get tough, and hotels get cut off first.
Hotel is, if the economy is doing bad and people's income down because inflation's up, they have less money to spend and they're going to travel less.
Yeah. And with like what we saw with COVID, just the number of people traveling for business is just way down. And that changed the whole market a lot. And I know a lot of hotels had to make some deals with the cities for providing housing and stuff like that. Yes. And that's been a whole other nightmare for some of the hotel brands. So be warned, but don't be afraid of making some major money in them. As Matt said, you could potentially be as lucky as a guy putting $600K down. You could put
$600,000 and turn into $10 million. Who knows? At that point, I probably would have just sold the hotel. That's just me. I'm like, oh, it's worth that.
Well, then you got to pay capital gains on that right away.
Yeah, but that capital gains is way better than the stress of management, probably.
Sometimes that is very true. Well, guys, we're going to leave you there. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and shoot us a DM, give us a like, follow, subscribe, and we'll be back next week.
Sounds good, guys. Talk to you later.